Hello, friends. I am Dr. Vivian Lakshmi. I have done my PhD in customer service mix from Ambedkar Open University, Dr. Ambedkar Open University. I have been working for Sarojini Naidu Vanitha Mahavidyalaya since 22 years, girls, and presently I'm working as associate professor in the college, and I will be dealing with international marketing paper for you all. And I hope, girls, we all together will try to make a value creation and a difference in this paper, in this course. Before I go on with the syllabi and what has to be taught or what has to be learned from this particular session or from this particular course, girls, let me first brush upon our basics, which we must have gone through and learned in semester 1. First, let me start with the concept of marketing, and let me explain to you. Basically, in the prehistoric stage where people were still wanderers or people were living in very, very small communities, in huts or in caves, and people realized that they are social beings, the concept of barter system has started, where they were realizing that any transaction is give and take. That is, we give some in kind and we take some in kind that they believe is worth for. And from there, as the civilization progressed and as the number system developed and as the economy developed, they have realized the concept of currency. They have realized the concept of cash transactions, basically because it was very difficult for them to compare one item that is of more worth in their idea with that of the other item whose value is comparatively less in their eyes. It is relativism that they were thinking about. For example, at one particular point of time, these small groups exchanged a kilogram of a metal to a kilogram of food grains. But as the civilization progressed, they realized when they were using this metal for different usages, that is, they were able to make some utensils with it, they were able to make some appliances with it, or they were able to make some sort of what you call uh, you know weapons with it. They realized that no more 1 kg of a metal cannot be exchanged with that of a kg of a rice. And by that time, number system also has come into existence, and hence they thought there should be a medium with which the 1 kg of metal can be compared and that of the 1 kg of the grain. And this really is the starting point for the progression or for the progress to the present civic society, where we have currencies and these currencies are traded across the world. But for a note, girls, for a note, friends, even today, 1/3 of the world trade happens with a barter system, with sister concerns, doing only book entries. And this type of the present developed marketing, uh, you know, concept has come into existence. Now, earlier we were talking about the transaction marketing, that is either the purchaser or the seller. That is, it could be the marketer, it could be the customer. They were thinking about only the transaction of that particular point of time. Once the transaction was performed, they never bothered about communicating, whatever the grievances the customer had, the customer never hesitated or never communicated with the company. At the same time, whatever the grievances the company had, the company received from the customers, never ever thought, they should attend to those grievances and try to, compensate the customer, or try to do what best, could be done in the given situation or the given environment. But as the laws have become more stringent and consumers became more aware, and more consumerism and consumer rights have come into practice or into implementation, the transaction marketing at one stage paved path to relationship marketing. On one side, the increase in the services component in the economy as such, that is, with more and more contribution from the service sector towards the GDP of an economy, then also the transaction marketing has resulted into the present relationship marketing. Companies realized the lifetime value of a customer. Organizations or the firms or the companies realized it is important for them to retain the customer to gain long-term profits with that particular client or with that particular customer. On the other hand, because of the widespread prevailing of the services in the market, the customers also realized the dependence on the company. As in the past, they could shift from one transaction, one company, to the other transaction, to the other company. Such a shift in services becomes very difficult. For example, you take banking transactions. Now, every month, as a customer, I cannot open an account, with a different bank. And when we are talking about banking transactions, we are talking about having a bank account for 20 years, 30 years, or a lifetime. Now, when I take a pension fund from an insurance company, a customer is looking at contributing or paying premiums to that insurance company for 30 years or 40 years time. And once the customer, reaches the tiredness stage, that is the retirement stage, then he is expecting the company to pay him back, as it could be the pension, or it could be the bonus and returns on that particular endowment or insurance account. I mean, it's a pension account. So we are talking about a very, very long-term relationships with the customers. Another example I would prefer to give you. Now, all of us, even though number mobility is there in telecommunications from one company to the other, many of us every time are, taking a prepaid connection from the same service provider, but not necessarily shifting month to month from one service provider to the other internet service provider or the telecommunication service provider like Airtel, Vodafone and others. Okay. So with this realization, there is a remarkable difference that the corporate companies are identifying what their product is. That is, it is the time where we understood or we try to understand the concept of marketing mix on one end and the differences between the goods and services on the other end. When I'm talking about the concept of marketing mix, we are talking about products, and products could be goods, services, or experiences. When I say it is a good, a good is anything, where you can feel it, one can feel it, one can touch it, one can see it, or one can understand before buying it or before using that particular product. When we talk about services, we can bring in the differences between goods and services based upon four characteristics of services, which we call them as the special characteristics of services. First being intangibility, that is, services intangible in nature. You cannot touch them, you cannot feel them, you cannot sense them. Okay. Second being inseparability, that is, the service provider and the service seeker cannot be separated during a service. I give you the example of a doctor. If the doctor is service provider and the patient who goes to him as a customer is the service seeker, doctor has to operate on the patient or doctor has to give prescription to the patient. Both of them cannot be separated. When both of them interact, then only it is a service provision. So that is inseparability. The third characteristic being inconsistency. We call these characteristics as 4 I's. When I say inconsistency, we are talking about once a blueprint is ready with a product, for example, a refrigerator blueprint, the first refrigerator the company manufactures to the 100th refrigerator the company manufactures, you get the same quality. No difference in the quality can be assessed or understood. Even if there is a slight problem or variation in the quality, there is every chance of repair. There is every chance for quality verification. But when we talk about the services, there is no second choice. Fine. So the service provider and the service seeker, every time a service is provided by the service provider to the service seeker, it could be a different experience to the service seeker. For example, I may have written 100 exams in the past, but one not one exam I'm trying to appear in education industry, I will have my level of what we call tension or my level of stress or my level of inconsistency. Okay, a doctor who has operated 100 times in the past may not give guarantee for the 101th operation, because 100 times the circumstances were different, the patients were different, and hence the outcome may be different. I always give this example. If there are 100 people before me and we give 100 stoves and 100 kadais and different vegetables, 100 same vegetables and same ingredients to all the 100 people, and they're asked to manufacture, sorry, they're asked to make a curry. There's no guarantee that any one curry tastes the same as that of the other. That is the level of inconsistency that is there in services. Then have inventory. Goods can be stored for a very, very long time, but services cannot be stored for any future point of time. Once lost, business is lost forever. For example, a transportation service is there. A bus has to start from Hyderabad to Vijayawada. If a bus, half of it is filled, neither the transportation company stop that particular bus service of the bus, nor they can fill those seats in the next service. In the same way, if a theater is there and if in that theater 50% of the seats are filled and 50% of the seats are unoccupied, then the theater owner has to run the movie, first thing. Second thing, the unoccupied seats cannot be sold in the next show. So once lost business is lost forever in services. These 4 I's make services different to that of the goods. And also these services gave scope for uh, for companies or corporate or firms to innovate a lot in the market. And because of these differences, when it comes to the marketing mix, we understand marketing mix as 4 P's in general, that is product, price, place, and promotion. But when we talk about services, because of these 4 I's or the special characteristics of services, we have additional 3 P's being added to the basic marketing mix. The 3 P's being physical evidence, process, and the people. Services are people intensive. Nowadays, most of the manufacturing units have become 100% automated, and employees, that is human intervention, became very, very limited only to the development of the systems or processes or procedures that have to be followed in the manufacturing plant. But in a service, it is not so. You need lot of customer grievance executives, lot of customer call center executives, lot of functional executives who will be working on various service platforms and various systems and processes. The importance of physical evidence, I may say, a one room clinic having a doctor and a helper as a clinic because of the physical evidence, while a big corporate hospital having 100 beds for patients with spacious operation theaters with a lot of pathological labs and other uh, we call diagnostic equipment and all, as a corporate hospital, and multifaceted functions are there in that particular establishment. We call it as the corporate hospital. So the basic difference here is the extent, and that is what we call as the physical evidence. Then we have the process. Why process is important? I give you a very simple example. In an education industry, you have, let me tell you, uh, for example, let me tell you the ISET. Fine. That ISET is the qualifying exam for entering into MBA in Telangana universities. So when a student is attempting an ISET, usually the process is the student gets passed in the graduation, with then attempts ISET, prepares for the ISET, attempts ISET, gets his or her ISET rank, and then applies in the convener, and then selects his college, then joins the college, attends the college, write his exams, and gets passed in that particular semester. The reverse cannot happen. And hence, the process becomes very important in the services. Then, in a nutshell, you have learned about marketing environment, both macro environmental factors and micro environmental factors, the concept of STP, that is segmentation, targeting, positioning, then demand forecasting, demand measuring demand, then competitive strategies you have learned. Then, uh, you know, you have even seen what is consumer behavior and how marketing is marketing control and marketing evaluation. And with this background, let us try to understand, how a company tries to become international, or why a firm wants to get into international markets. First thing, let me tell you, if a company has generated sales and they wants to expand, let me imagine they wants to expand. The two options before them for expansion to get more sales revenue is, the first one is come up with innovative products or new products. Now, for every company, coming up with new products may not be as easy or as possible, because it requires lot of investment, lot of efforts on the R&D front, that is research and development front on one side. Second side, they can enter new markets within the domestic barriers, or new markets outside the political barriers of that particular country. And this is the main impulse, or this is the main reason why most of the companies have started thinking of going international. This is from the sales point of view. Let us discuss some of the other issues for going international. Second issue we can think, there are a lot of differences as far as the procurement of the raw materials are concerned. as far as the transformation process, that is the cost or the expenditure during the transformation process, that is the as a manufacturing in a manufacturing unit, when inputs are being converted into outputs. And also nowadays supply chains have become international. So to take the advantage of these differences in the expenditure and the cost patterns across the globe, organizations are going international. Third thing, they go international to get a technological know-how. Okay, as we have learned, macro environmental factors, basically pest. The political situations in a particular country or similar to our country, we prefer to go and do, exporting or international to those countries. Fine. Socio-cultural socio-cultural similarities. Those countries which are similar on the socio-cultural terms, the companies might be interested to enter into. Then economical, developed countries, developing countries, developed economies, developing economies, lesser developed economies, on the economic front and on the technological front. Especially companies may want to get into or have joint ventures with such firms which have technological know-how and give the market. That is, suppose an Indian company wants to have a joint venture with a foreign company, and that foreign company will give a technological know-how to the Indian company, and this Indian firm will give access to its Indian market to that particular foreign company and or a multinational company. The same thing might happen, the other reverse, vice versa also. So these are some of the reasons why companies wants to become international. Not only that, nowadays we are talking about domestic companies, transnational companies, multinational companies, and these multinational companies becoming truly global organizations where no more they believe that they belong to a particular country. They have global products being marketed across the globe, products being manufactured across the globe, products being distributed throughout the globe, and products being procured, that is the suppliers are also extended across the globe. So these are, when a company wants to cross the political borders of a particular country, then we say that the company has gone to the international markets and they want to take advantage of what all the possibilities that are available in the international markets. With this, friends, I am stopping for today and let us continue in the next class. Thank you, one and all.